Thank you, and welcome to my district, the 6th District of Georgia. I am Congressman Rich McCormick. It's my honor today to introduce Governor DeSantis and just kind of frame this conversation just for a second. Mark Twain once said, there are lies, damn lies, and there's statistics. Obviously, tonight there are a lot of statistics thrown away and just not worth the merit. When you talk about comparing two states of drastic contrast, California and Florida, compare them any day on education, gun violence, crime, unemployment, homelessness, taxes. Florida has absolutely dominated since we had Governor Ron DeSantis. Even before Newsom and DeSantis, the census proved that Florida gained seats and California lost. That's because the population is shifting. We just had hearings today in Congress talking about illegal immigration and about the 9.6 million people that have crossed the border illegal into America. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you have extra border agents if their whole purpose is to process people rather than them turn them away from a sovereign nation. There's a distinct difference. 9.6 million, by the way, if they're represented by a congressperson, would be about 13 congressional seats. Let that sink in. What hasn't Governor Ron DeSantis done that he was supposed to do since he's governor? His state is not only thriving, but he has increased his popularity by about 19 points since his first election. Meanwhile, Newsom has lost about 5.4% in popularity since his first election. Once again, comparing governors side by side. We're going through the 70s all over again. If you think about this, we have runaway inflation, runaway energy costs, a proxy war with Russia. We have hatred of the military, hatred of the police, racial strife. Just like then, we have a time for choosing. And that's why we should choose, as the next president of the United States, Governor Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks. It's great to be in Georgia. It's interesting. Georgia's a great neighbor, and we work very well. Governor's a friend of mine and has done a great job here. So I'm always happy to come to Georgia. But this was Gavin Newsom saying he wanted it in Georgia, and then he wouldn't allow a crowd to be at the debate. So I guess we could have just done this anywhere, but I think it was something that was good because this is a debate about the future of the country. And you see the model that California has done. That's the model for the Democratic Party. That's where their energy is. That's what they would do in a second Biden term, a Harris term, a Newsom term. And then you look at Florida, and we really have a model to reverse the skids that the country's on now and get us on a much better pathway. And I think you saw those contrasts. Clearly, the results speak for themselves. You can put a graphic up that says very clearly, he would try to spin out of it, but the reality is the reality. People vote with their feet. As somebody that spent time as a young naval officer in Southern California, I have huge, huge admiration for the natural wonders of that state. I think it's has the potential to be a great dynamic state, but the policies are holding them back. The policies are leading to the homelessness. The policies are leading to the spiking crime. The policies are leading to cities like San Francisco and LA becoming hollowed out and shells of their former self. And that's on his watch and other people like him. So that, I think, was very, very clear. And going forward, and look, we've done, I know, some of these Republican debates, and when you have 8 people up there, it's hard to do a really good debate. Then they did 7. And I didn't get a question for the first 25 minutes. And then we did one where we only had 5. It was a little bit better. Maybe this next one will be less. But I do think there's something to have a one-on-one debate, 90 minutes. You can cover more ground. You'll be able to make more points. I don't think Joe Biden will ever debate again. I don't think he's willing to do it. And I don't think Donald Trump will ever debate again. I don't think he's willing to do it. So if you're not willing to debate, then you shouldn't be running. You should show up and do it. So I'd love to debate Donald Trump. I'll debate Biden. I'll debate any of these people because ultimately the future of the country is at stake. Okay? Yes?
The hundreds of thousands of people have left California, as you have pointed out, and they have manifest problems. But meanwhile, the state keeps moving further to the left. They keep electing Democrats. What do Republicans have to do to get some traction in California? Why do Californians keep sending them back to office?
Well, I think that there's an interesting dynamic in this because when I was growing up, I was born and raised in Florida. I never remember seeing California license plate ever in Florida. Then all of a sudden I become governor. I see all these California license plates. Well, I won my first election by 0.5 percentage point, and Florida was a razor-thin state. So a lot of my supporters are looking at those California plates, and they were freaking out because they're like, are we bringing in people that are going to vote very liberal from California? I think it turns out that most of the people that left California were people that were leaving because they appreciated the policies in Florida. So I think what's happened is when the blue states are pushing out people, I do think they're disproportionately pushing out more Republican leaning. So what ends up happening is when people do bad at governing, you want a reaction the other way, and that's usually the base of the opposite party with the independents. We saw that in New York with Zeldin's race. And I've told people, if you just take all the Republicans who've moved from New York to Florida, if they could have voted for Zeldin, he probably would have won that race. So I think it's really tough in these deep blue states because if they're hemorrhaging Republicans that are going to other Sunbelt states, then they're just not going to have that base to have a reaction back the other way. Although I will say, I mean, the fact that even San Francisco recalled that DA, that at least was, I think, a sign of progress. I mean, he was so bad that they had no other choice. But I do think it's tough. I think that the migration has been philosophical. I think if you look in my election, I won the new migrants probably more than I won the state as a whole. I think it was that dramatic in what you're seeing. So we're getting these people, and I remember all these New Yorkers would come to me when I was for my first term. They'd be like, "I'm so glad to be in a state where my vote counts." Well, it turns out I had 1.5 million votes to spare. We could have sent some of those, and the New York race was closer. But I think it's just tough. I think it's going to be tough to get in those deep blue states. I think it is going to be tough.
Governor, what's your response to the accusations against Christian Ziegler, and should he resign?
So I've just seen them. They're very serious. I don't see how he can continue with that investigation ongoing, given the gravity of those situations. And so I think that he should step aside. I think he should tend to that. He's innocent until proven guilty, but we just can't have a party chair that is under that type of scrutiny. And so I hope the charges aren't true. I've known him. I've known Bridget. They've been friends. But the mission is more important.
What did you talk about freedoms tonight, both from Governor Newsom and from yourself? And it's interesting, you know, I spent a lot of time on the trail talking to voters. Tonight we talked to some of the folks that moved from California to Florida. One of the women told us she moved because she felt like her freedoms as a parent were being restricted in California, that her children weren't able to be free to live their values at school. But we also have talked to voters that have moved from Florida to California, and the trend I've noticed there, they're often folks from the LGBT community that feel like they're not safe in Florida. What do you say to people?
Well, that's not true. I think some of this is a narrative. Like, we did get into the curriculum, and I think it's fine if you disagree with how we've handled curriculum without saying.
Not just in schools, but people who
Well, I know, but I think what's happened, though, is having the parents' rights in education, where we say we're not going to do the sexuality or the gender identity in the elementary schools. That was portrayed by people in your industry as, quote, "don't say gay," even though the word was never in the bill, and it applies to all of this stuff. So I think there was a narrative that somehow that was targeting individuals' rights. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with school curriculum. We were right to do what we did in school curriculum, and I think you'll see most people in Florida, they've realized that that was a phony narrative, but it has nothing to do with an individual's rights. All we're talking about is focusing on that school curriculum and just making sure that it's age appropriate. I mean, I showed the stuff from the book. That is in schools in California. When he said it wasn't, that is. They do have gender. They start to talk about gender, how, you know, the gender stereotypes and gender change. They do talk about that in California in elementary school, because I looked that up. So that is there, and it's not there in Florida, and we think it's more appropriate the way we're doing it. Yep.
When exactly did you learn that there's an investigation into
Today.
Ziegler?
Yeah,
And then
today.
my question on the debate, you have to operate with governors, regardless of party, as president. If you become president, how would you operate with Newsom and democratically led states?
So when you have issues like emergencies, I put all the politics aside. I've sent California help already. And you just got to do that. I mean, these things that happen when the governors are working directly with the president and those types of situations, you can't let any of this other stuff color that. And so I've been somebody that has been willing to do that, and I would definitely do that as president. Now, in terms of our posture to some of these states and their policies. For example, we are going to be aggressive at going after these radical district attorneys. Well, we have tools with the Justice Department. They are causing serious carnage to their communities. And you can just talk to people, and like when I'm sitting up there, and I said at the beginning, he knows how to spin, he does this, but like to try to put the lipstick on the pig and say somehow crime is not a problem in LA, just talk to people. You go visit, I've talked to people, they go to a hotel, they're like, I want to walk down the street. And the guy at the front of the desk will say, what are you doing? You're leaving the hotel? Yeah, I'm going to, no, you can't walk down that street. The women take off their jewelry. So that's happening, and that's not right. And I think every American should have the right to live in peace and security. And to elect people who say they have an agenda not to enforce the law, that's unacceptable. If you don't like a law, you run for the legislature and you try to change the law. You don't get elected to an executive position and then nullify the law.
Governor DeSantis, tomorrow you're going to Nikki Haley's backyard. What is your message to the former South Carolina governor all day tomorrow?
Well, my message is about our campaign. If you compare, I've been a governor, I'm a governor, she was a governor. Can people name anything that she did as governor that was significant, substantive? No. And a lot of people in South Carolina I talk to can't do that. Whereas me, we've been a transformational governor. Everything I promised I'd do, we got done. And we've made a huge, huge difference. And so that's what it's going to take. What you don't want is somebody that's just going to manage the decline. You want somebody that's going to actually reverse this decline. And that means you got to get in there, and you've really got to be strong to change the trajectory of where this government is going. I've shown the leadership to be able to do that. I have the background and I think the backbone to do that. And I have the focus and discipline. I think I'm unique in the race in that respect. So Republican voters, South Carolina conservatives in particular, they can know if the governor's saying he's going to go and he's going to deal with this deep state, he's going to do it. It's not just idle rhetoric. If he says he's going to solve the border, he's going to do it. It's not just going to be idle rhetoric. And I don't think she has the track record of being able to say the same thing.
Tonight, what do you feel like was the outcome and the result of this?
So I think what it was, part of the reason I did it is because Sean's a friend, and he pitched it to Newsom. Newsom said, 24 hours, I'll do it. So then they came to me and they said, and at first I was like, Newsom's running a shadow campaign. He should actually make it official. But then I thought about it. I'm in a race where one candidate gets a disproportionate amount of media coverage. And so I have to be able to get my message out. So to have 90 minutes on national TV where I'm able to go and box somebody who is on the far left, that is good exposure for me. And in fact, I've just been talking to my folks. We got a great response tonight from people. People on the right who have been dinging me because they're for Trump or somebody else. Everyone kind of rallied, and they're like, you know what? This guy represents our values, and he's taken the fight to the other side. So I think it was good. I think we got a good shot in the arm about it. I'd be willing to do more of these with others because ultimately voters need to see who you are, what you believe in, what you've accomplished. But I do think being on a stage like that, it allows you to say, okay, who do we want in those presidential debates next September for our nominee? Because if you go back to October of 2020, the first presidential debate, Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in that debate. He beat Trump in that debate. I had people at the Florida governor's mansion. We had 50 people. We were all excited. We watch. The debate ends and everyone is just speechless. We didn't know what to say. And it was a Biden win. And we all had been making fun of Biden for being in the basement, not being able to string two sentences together. So he did it. We don't have the opportunity to miss this time. We've got to put our best foot forward. We've got to have somebody that's going to go up there, really galvanize the voters that we need, but be able to stand on that stage and articulate the conservative principles that make the country tick and what we're sorely needed. So I think I showed today that any of these primary voters are looking, I think they can say, that guy's going to fight for me. That guy's going to be up there. He's not going to take any of this from the left, and he will get the job done.
About
Newsom's call for you to drop out of the race?
Oh, it was a stunt. I mean, give me a break. Like, I mean, that's just what he's doing. He clearly had some pre-programmed things that he was doing. It was interesting. Some of the things he was saying on like immigration were totally bogus. I mean, like, there's some things you can do which is false and maybe a twist and it's like 99% false, but like there's not even 1% on that. He was just making that stuff up. A lot of the stuff he was saying has already been debunked with some of these the bogus attacks that Haley's lodged against me. And that's from like these liberal fact checkers who almost always ding me. Like my whole time as governor, it's like, I have a comma out and they say, pants on fire. But even they had to acknowledge that those were bogus attacks. So I think he just had that plan, but I don't think ultimately it was very persuasive. I mean, when you're trying to do stats and you're doing that, it just doesn't pass the smell test. So California has problems. Like you can't get around that. And I think he was trying to put lipstick on the pig, and I don't think the people watching thought that was very credible because they've seen what's happened. They've seen the exodus. They've seen the videos out of San Francisco. Heck, I even had the poop map from San Francisco. We showed that, and it's true, and it's sad that it's true, but it's true, and that's what's happening. So, well, I got to go, guys. We'll see you soon. Thank you. Appreciate it. Which way? This way? Yep.